All right, I'd love to welcome you here tonight. My name is Charlotte Ducos. I am the Legislative VP in the PTASA at Frontier Middle School, as well as the Legislative VP at Hidden Hollow Elementary. And we'd like to welcome you here tonight. I am joined by Jen Webb, who is also on the Frontier PTSA board, and we'll be moderating the debate tonight. So glad to have you here. We'll begin with our council debate, and let's go ahead and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'll go ahead and stand. I pledge allegiance to Thank you. Our questions tonight were selected from submissions by residents of the city. They were chosen by a committee of PTSA moms, and as well as a woman from the Crossroads Journal. And so we're grateful for their help as well. The format for this evening is we will begin with 2-minute introductions by each of the candidates, and then there will be a series of 4 questions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question, and then we will go back through again for another 1-minute rebuttal on each question. At the end of the 4-question rotation, we will have 2-minute closing statements by each candidate. And so we'll just go ahead and proceed. Jen will be helping me by timing, and she will give the 30-second warnings for the candidates, and I'll be asking the questions. We'll begin with our opening statements. We'll begin with Tom.
Hi, I want to thank everyone for coming out. My name is Tom Westmoreland, and I'm a candidate for City Council. My wife and I have 9 children. We've lived in Eagle Mountain for 5 years now. Just to tell you a little bit about me, I'm a constitutional conservative, a life NRA member. I believe in limited government. I'm pro-business. For the last 20 years, I've worked in both Nevada and Utah, working for conservative issues. Just this past year, I worked with then Representative Consumption on the public lands issue, working to get control of the public lands back to the state of Utah. Some of the things that I would like to see and do for my city is limit spending. I'm fiscally conservative. And so certainly I would like to limit any unnecessary spending, particularly when it comes, I know kind of a touchy area is with our okay, thank you, with things like the events, Pony Express days and things like that. I want to again, I want to thank you all for coming out. I want to thank everyone that's put on the debate. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Nathan Oxenhurt. I'm running for City Council of Eagle Mountain. I currently serve on the council here in Eagle Mountain and have done so for the last 6 years, and I'm very grateful for my time that I've had to serve the people of the great city of Eagle Mountain. I've lived here for 10 years. I'm married, have 4 children, been married for getting close to 25 years, which seems like not very long now, but it's been a wonderful experience. And moving to Eagle Mountain has been really good for our family, especially for our children, with all the many children that are out here. And that's one of the big driving forces for me to remain on the council, is to make sure that things are done in a way that benefit the families of Eagle Mountain City, that we have infrastructure to safely drive and provide transportation for our children, with paths and parks to play in for our children. Activities for our older kids is something that we need to start focusing more on, and that we can encourage businesses to come out and spend their capital in our city, that they can invest in buildings and in their products being moved in our city so that we can have those services not only for ourselves, but that we can reap the benefits of their tax base that it will generate. I strongly believe in small government. I think that the local level is the way things are done. That's why I'm here in the city, and I feel comfortable. 30. I feel comfortable in making that contribution for my neighborhood, my friends, my constituents, the people that I'm able to socialize with and to be able to affect a positive change in their life. I'm grateful to have been able to do that for the last 6 years, and that's why I believe Nate is great for Eagle Mountain.
Good evening, Adam Bradley, City Council, of course. I guess I'm in the right spot. And I'm glad to be here. It's been just a real pleasure of mine to get to know all of you, to knock on your doors and get to know the neighborhoods and just be out there. It's been a really good time for me. Something that I didn't really look forward to during the campaign, but something that I've grown to enjoy and get out there and put a lot of faces to names. My wife and I have lived here 5.5 years in the ranches on Mount Airy Drive. And we came to Eagle Mountain for the economics of it. It was a nice, affordable, clean, healthy, nice place to live. And we fell in love quickly with the people, with the neighborhoods, and my kids love the schools. It's a great place to live. And I know I'm preaching to the choir because you wouldn't be here if you didn't agree with me. But I grew up in the Washington, D.C. suburbs where politics is kind of all around. And so politics is always sort of on my mind. And I quickly realized that the politics that really matters are here in this building. The local politics that affects the roads we drive on, the parks we play at, the schools our kids go to, those are the politics that matters. And that's why it is exciting to see the involvement and excited to see you guys here, because I really do believe that this is the politics that matters. And by trade, I'm an airline pilot by profession, and that gives me a lot of time off to spend time with my family and now with the city, and I enjoy that time. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time being with you guys, and I've got a lot of ideas for the city. I think we've come a long way, and it's a wonderful place to live. And a few of my ideas are big, some are small, but I think we could district the city a little bit for a little better representation.
That's time. I'm sorry.
I missed the 30 seconds. I'm sorry. I talked over you.
I'm sorry.
Okay, well, my wife's used to that. I apologize. Thanks for coming tonight.
My name's Brian Free. I am an honest, hardworking, frugal, experienced leader who will represent you and has been doing so for many years. Back in 2006, my wife and I moved out here to Eagle Mountain City and began our journey here in the greatest place to live anywhere. We now have 4 children, have lived here over 7 years, and have been involved all that time. I immediately began in 2006 helping with the Pony Express Days and as a volunteer coach, as well as taking time to go out into my parks and pick up trash to help make the place where I live beautiful and great for everyone to enjoy. I've now been on the Parks and Rec Board, which I was appointed to in 2008, and have served there for 5.5 years, both as the chair and the vice chair, and now a current standing member. Through that time, I have on 2 to 3 different occasions taken tours of the city with city officials and learned of all the infrastructure that is here in Eagle Mountain throughout every part of our community. That is really important. Not a lot of those who are running have done that and taken that time to really understand what we have currently in our community. And I've done that on several occasions because things keep changing, and I will continue to do that. I've also taken the time inside and outside of campaigning to go out and talk to residents and to listen to you and see what's important regarding different issues that we are facing through the Parks and Rec Board or just generally here in our community. I think that is the only way that we can truly represent, is to go out and talk to each resident in each part of our community to really understand, so I can truly represent each and every one of you and do what's best for our city. We need new leadership. It is time, and I am someone who will truly represent you. Thanks, and vote for Brian Free.
All right, that was everyone, right? Don't want to leave anyone out. We're ready for our first question. When preferences and input of residents conflict with the landowner rights of a developer, what do you see as the appropriate way to create balance? How will you determine the appropriate course of action when the two contradict each other? Please use a specific example which has occurred within the city, if possible. This will start with Mr. Oxenhurt.
Would you read that one last
Yes,
time,
I will.
please? That was a mouthful.
Okay. When preferences and input of the residents conflict with the landowner rights of a developer, what do you see as the appropriate way to create balance? How will you determine the appropriate course of action when the two contradict each other? Please use a specific example which has occurred in the city, if possible. We'll begin with Mr. Oxenhurt.
Well, I'm a big property rights guy. I think that you own a piece of property for a reason. I think that there are certain rights that you're entitled to because of that. We also live in a community. There are rules and regulations that we agree to live by, whether it's through the HOA or through a city ordinance. And when a group of people have a differing opinion from, let's say, a developer. We had a situation recently where the surrounding neighborhoods did not want to have so much high density. They didn't want the development at all, quite honestly. And this was a very difficult choice because you've got a group of people that own property and have the right and ability to improve that and to make gain or whatever it is that their final purpose is, and that would be what this one would be. And then you have the rights of the surrounding people. How does it impact them? And as a city council member, it's up to us to try to mitigate the differences between them. One of the big questions was traffic. We were provided with traffic studies, and these are from the information that we're able to gather and be presented with to try and make those decisions. And then we have to try and weigh all the facts and all the opinions and all the ramifications from the choices that will be made and come up with the best opinion that you can for the people.
30 seconds.
There's one thing I've learned is that you cannot please everybody. There's typically going to be someone unhappy with every decision that's made because someone that has an opposing view that isn't heard, they get disappointed. But I know that if you lean towards property rights and the protection of those, you will please most of the people here in Eagle Mountain, because I believe that we believe in our ability and our right to own property and to do within the rules what we can do.
Yes.
Okay, we're
Just
counting
keep
down.
rotating.
All right,
Yep.
thanks. All right, so to me, this is about capitalism. We live in a capitalist society. The landowners have the right under the law to make the money that they intend to make. And at the same time, there must be some cohesiveness with the city and our code. So it comes down to code as well. The city code or the city rules, and making sure that the city rules benefit the citizens as well as growth. I'm very pro-growth. We need more rooftops, and we need bigger, wider roads in this town. And that growth comes from developers and comes from landowners, large landowners. And so it's about the code. The code must fit your and I's needs. And if it doesn't, that code can be changed. That's the beauty of it, is we can change that code. And so it's this landowner responsibility to live up to that code. And then in turn, it's the city council's job to make sure that that landowner is abiding by the code, and that we can hold them accountable to that code. That's the line in the sand. And so as a capitalist, we want people to make money. We want people to think of Eagle Mountain as a place that they can make money, because they will come here and grow and build retail and those sort of things that ease the tax burden off of us. And so we must facilitate the compromise. As a city councilman, I intend to facilitate that compromise between how they make their money, and hopefully their intent is to make money and to live well with the citizens that are already here. And so Nate mentioned the example I was thinking of as well, and So it happens, it's a real thing, and it's up to those of us that you elect to stick
Time.
up for your rights. Thank you.
This is where, for me on this issue, it comes down to making sure that each resident is listened to and that your voice is heard. That is important. More often than not, I believe that landowners want to have a win-win solution with the residents of Eagle Mountain City, and it's important that we take that opportunity and encourage that dialogue. One specific example for me where we had issues with landowner rights was recently involved with our Parks and Recreation Board, which I'm a current member. We had several residents who were crossing over private property on many occasions to go out and recreate on some of the open trails on BLM land and such, and it was causing a lot of dispute and complaints to the city council. And they came to us as a Parks and Rec board and asked us to look at some solutions of what could be done. We then had our chair of our Parks and Rec board go forward and initiate the project that we've recently completed, which was to go through the entire city of Eagle Mountain and create an off-road trail master plan for off-road vehicles, so that there could be a place where residents could come from where they live legally to a trail within the city and then take their ATVs and off-road vehicles off to the areas where it is legal to ride those vehicles, thus steering away from private property that exists and other things like that. And
30
we've also,
seconds.
through grants and other things, we're able to acquire signage to put out on the trails and still have the last bit of that to put together so that we can have that completed and have a finished project there.
I'm a businessman. I'm actually in advertising, so I've had a chance to work with all kinds of businesses. And part of advertising and building business niche is you have to understand your market. So I don't know if there are any developers or land speculators here tonight. I would hope that there were, but whether they are or not, that's who I want to speak to. I want to speak to the developers. I want to speak to those landowners and use a specific example that comes up all the time. The city is now, just using round figures, somewhere around $55 million in debt. And something just came up recently where it appears that this city will need to borrow more money to put in a water line. This is a commitment made long ago, so I'm not faulting anyone. I understand that some things, the development isn't quite as far along as it was supposed to be. But my point is that that debt keeps growing, and it's the citizens that pay for it. So there's a conflict. And so if we look at Saratoga Springs and Eagle Mountain, Eagle Mountain set out a few years ago to build a bunch of houses, and it's done really well. Saratoga Springs set out a few years ago and set out to build businesses. As a result,
30 seconds.
We pay a lot of Saratoga Springs expenses out of our wallets, and they should send us a thank you card. So I want to ask the developers, what are you going to leave the citizens when you're done? Are you going to leave a bunch of debt? I want to call upon you to use your influence to bring businesses here and give us balance with commercial industry. They have the money, they have the pull, and it's in their best interest. They will make more money sooner if they do so. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and start our rebuttal. We'll begin with Mr. Bradley.
So I want to be clear that development is good, but abiding by that code is what's important. And so what I love to see, and what I've seen a lot over the last 6 or 8 months, is you all coming to the city council and saying, wait a minute, I don't like what's happening over here, or I need more information. And so it's my goal as your elected representative to feed you that information, mostly through my website, but love to do it face-to-face if I have the opportunity.
30 seconds.
And so we need to communicate these issues. We never want something to happen and then afterwards be upset about it because it's done. So let's continue that trend of those of you who don't like things that are happening next door to you or in your backyard or across the street from you. Let's talk about it. let's have these open lines of communication so we can have that trust with you and I, and then let's talk to the developers and let's make sure that they're doing what's in our best interest, and they'll make money too. It's natural. It's going to happen for them. So let's make sure that it's best for us.
First off, I'd like to argue that I don't think Saratoga Springs has really done everything well. They're just in the right spot. They've had a lot of urban sprawl, and now on their election, they're having some bonds to help figure out how much high-density development they want to have in their community and let the residents make that decision. So they're having to backtrack on some of decisions they made without a lot of resident input in the first place. And that's something I don't want to do. That's backwards thinking to me. On a general term, I've seen good and bad actions by developers in regards to interacting with residents. And the ones that I like and what I would encourage as a council member is that we be proactive as developers to go out and talk to residents who live near the areas we're developing and get their input on what they would like to see and what they think would work well. And to do the same thing as a city. When somebody comes in, I don't want residents to know about it when it's being built. I want them to know about it before it's built so we can get their input and they can understand what we're doing and be on the same page and really do what's best for everyone.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to say that Saratoga Springs is doing everything right. That wasn't my point. My point is that they have developed a business industry now. Certainly they have a location advantage. And that's all the more reason that the land developers should take a keen interest on how business gets developed here in Eagle Mountain. Because we can't just keep borrowing money for infrastructure and expect the citizens to pay for it just so they can sell houses. Now they need to build houses and they need to sell houses.
30 seconds.
I fully understand that. But we need the balance. We need the balance of industry. And if we work together, we can overcome any disadvantage we have in our location and bring industry here. Thank you.
Kind of all over the map on that one. Bring it back to the property owners' rights. I think that we need to support property owners for the most part, but they need to be responsible. Okay, when the developers come in, they need to be responsible and prudent. Neighbors need to be understanding also that you know, hey, my view of this field through that I see the lake is eventually going to have homes or businesses or something. It's going to happen. So it's a partnership, and this is the big thing that I've tried to preach while I've been out at campaigning this year, is building this partnership between the community
30 seconds.
and within the building and the business community, along with each individual resident, so that we can work together for responsible and prudent development rather than just slamming in a bunch of high density or trying to forbid any of it. It needs to be prudent, responsible, and respectable. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to question number 2. When considering proposed improvements in the city, what do you feel should be the criteria for deciding which improvements to make? How will you weigh your decision when it comes to issues such as overall cost, number of residents that benefit, utility and road improvements, parks, and recreation? We'll begin with Mr. Free.
This is something, again, that I have experience working with on the Parks and Rec Board, and one of the concerns I sometimes have of our elected officials and those on our board as well sometimes in the past, all good people, but we'll come into those meetings and we essentially come up with a wish list of things that we want to see happen in our community. And then we start going, okay, how much money can you give us? Okay, let's go forward. And that's not the right way to handle these things as you're looking at proposed improvements here in our community. I think the most important thing to do is look at what is necessary, what is needed infrastructure-wise to maintain what we currently have, and what is it going to take to do so. That is bottom line, has to be taken care of every year. We've got to have roads, we've got to have utility infrastructure, we've got to repair those roads, we've got to clear them in the wintertime. We've got to make sure that all of our basic needs are taken care of before we look at the improvements that we need to make. And then the next thing we need to do is look in the future and say, of those improvements, what needs are we going to have to replace some of those things, such as, you know, buildings that need to be repaired or vehicles or other things like that, and make sure that we are planning for those needs as well. And then we start looking at the things that might be on what we would call a quote unquote wish list. and think about what helps provide a quality of life, like developing the Mid-Valley Park, which a lot of residents are asking for more
30
parks and
seconds.
recreation, those kind of things. And as that can be done frugally without raising taxes and keeping the cost of living out here low, we can also raise the standard of living and maintain the great quality of life that we have out here in Eagle Mountain.
That's always a tough choice in deciding where to spend money. Especially, I guess it's not the spending of the money, it's who gets left out. So it's really important that we consider return on investment and best use. For example, when we talk about spending a particular dollar amount, is that the best use? What else could we have had for that dollar amount? And that's something that I will ask every time the subject of spending money comes up. Another issue that I've noticed is there tends to be, generally when money is spent, then someone's feelings are hurt. And as I've talked to people, I generally get a sense that City Center feels left out, and they don't get some of the things that other places do. One of the things that I would like to propose, I know it's been talked about, a districting of the city council seats. But one of the setbacks, or drawbacks of districting that way is then you end up with a competition. Every city councilman would have to bring back to his district something, and so that would tend to push spending up. So what I would like to propose is a compromise and divide the city into two districts, an east and a west, if you will, divided at the summit.
30 seconds.
So to guarantee that there is one city council for each district and then the other three be at large. That way no one is going to be left out and they'll be guaranteed representation.
Well, when it comes to adding anything, the first thing that I ask is what's the funding source? Okay, it's great to have a park, it's great to have a road, we're able to bring some water into the city, a pipeline, the water's already coming. And that was an obligation that we had. But what is the funding source? Are we tapping into taxes? Are we going into BNC road funds? Are we taking the money from the the telecom sales? The funds that the city are able to receive are sacred, and I take that responsibility of spending those very, very seriously. And so when we look at the different projects that come before us, we've got the skate park, we've got the Mid-Valley Park, we've got, Bobby Wren going in, and all the different little things that come before us that are really big to those neighborhoods. What is the funding source? Okay? And that is where we have to look at it. And when we pull money in from developers through impact fees and all the different ways, we have select funds that we can target for these projects. And that understanding how that funding is brought into the city and being able to work with the developers and the businesses and those that have relationships with the city and going out and extending those relationships, that's how we're able to get these things done. Not just sit here and spend the money and, where is it coming from? First question is, where does the money come from? And then you have to do your very best to try and implement it appropriately. We try and spread the parks all over the valley. We've done that. We've spent money in all of the areas, and we're doing the best we can. We've also worked with individual neighborhoods, and that's one of my favorite things, is when a neighborhood comes to us and says, we want something, here's what we can do, will you help us? And the answer is yes, we will do what we can. We've done that in my own neighborhood, and we've done it out here in the city center.
I think this is a prime example of proper communication, talking about these issues. If we have possibilities of grant money coming in or improvements that need to be made, I think these things need to be talked about before city council meeting, before they come to a vote. And again, I'm going to be that resource for you. I'm going to help you make that decision. At my job, I basically get paid to make decisions. That's my job. It's about a decision-making process, and you have to weigh everything. And it's a matter of having the practice and the skills to take in all of your available information, talk about it, communicate it with others, and then make a good decision. And so you can trust me with those decisions. It's what I do on a daily basis, and it's I'm held accountable to those decisions as well. And that's what matters. That's why you're here. You want to know who you're going to vote for so you can hold us accountable. And that's what we expect. That's what I expect. And so as we talk about improvements, where is the money coming from? And if it comes from your wallet, meaning taxes, you need to be informed of that. You need to know about that, and you need to voice your opinion, or at least have an ear that's going to listen to you, and that's going to be me. And so what we need to do is, it is again a matter of compromise, that we take the cost of it versus the benefit of it. And sometimes that cost is too much, and we say, no, we're not going to ask the taxpayers to pay for those things. There are other sources of income. That's why we need to grow our rooftops and roads so that we can have more commercial development here so they can pay for these things. We can rely on their taxes and their impact fees to lower our taxes so that we can improve. Thank you.
We'll begin our rebuttal with Mr. Westmoreland.
No, we haven't heard anything. We've heard a lot of good ideas, and certainly they're all worth implementing. What we need to build our economy here is we need to keep
30 seconds.
Wow, that was quick. Our wallets and our spending here, and unless we have a place to spend money, I'm really anxious for the new center to come in with the grocery store, because we need that to be successful, because that will set the pattern for all businesses after this. If that's not successful, it's going to be a really hard sell. But if we can make that retail center successful, then other businesses will be quick to jump on. Thanks.
Rooftops, we keep saying it, you've heard every one of us mention it. It's prudent and responsible development where we have the right-sized neighborhoods, we have the right-sized streets, that we have the amount of infrastructure in place, power, water, sewer, parks, trails, schools for the children. It's development that drives all of this, and it needs to be monitored and constantly tweaked by this board. Okay? It's a proven thing. If we keep building those homes, we had a great time for a few years there where they were just coming in like crazy and the money was there for these things. Now it's been more difficult. We're seeing a rejuvenation of that. We need more rooftops so that we can entice the businesses to come here, because we're that destination. We need to have a reason. We need to have the people here that will spend their money here. And then when it comes, you need to support it. And it's coming. Thank you.
So I want to I have to remind myself sometimes, because as I've been more involved with city government, you just think about the city government more. But I just want to remember the proper role of city government. Why are we here? Why is this building here? And it's to serve the residents, to protect our rights, and to make sure that we have neighborhoods and homes and a place to raise our families that's quiet, clean, safe. That's the role. And let's not forget that. Let's not expect the city to do something that's not their job to do. And so we need to remember that if it costs money, it's got to come from somewhere. We can't build out of nothing. And so we need to make sure that we have sustainable growth through those low times when homes aren't being built. And so that's why we really need to encourage some commercial development so that retail can help us through the lower home building times. And it's important that we promote that.
I think the most important issue when it comes to proposed improvements and the criteria that we look at is the cost. I don't want to build something that's going to raise your taxes, just so that we can have, a new park, or just so that we can, even build a road if necessary, whatever it is. And it is important that residents are involved in the process of knowing what we are proposing to improve and having their voice heard in that discussion and understanding what the options are, so that, and, in layman's terms, so
30
really what's
seconds.
going to happen. And then once we go forward with those improvements, making sure that we understand the short-term needs, the long-term needs, and also those things that will help provide a quality of life long-term.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and move to question number 3. The City Council recently established a Military and Veterans Advisory Board. While this is a laudable notion, is it really necessary for groups of citizens to be formally established as an advisory board in order to share their thoughts and concerns with the city? Should every demographic be represented with an advisory board? At what point should one interest group get a more formal type of representation than the others? We'll begin with Mr. Oxenhurt.
Well, I voted for that, and I'll tell you exactly why. Because I believe that when you have an interested group of people that want to organize their thoughts and provide something good for the city, I think that we need to support that. We're not talking about money. We're talking about saying, your group, go and do. And the possibility of them doing something good, especially in the short term, is very high. But there's also a possibility that they'll do something great. And that's why I voted for it. Boards are cyclical. People will come on the board, they'll come off the board. They'll move out of the city, and boards will do more many times when they're first started, because there's that passion, that excitement for the new group. And so sometimes it's good to organize a new group because of that excitement. And the question would really be, is there any harm? We're not talking a financial impact, but what we're doing is we're encouraging goodness. We're encouraging supporting your neighbor and your friends. We're supporting the thought process of these people gathering themselves and trying to serve the city on their time and in their way, the best that they can do. And so the way I see the boards is it's an opportunity that should bring good things, and many times can bring great things. And so, do we need to organize 100 groups? That seems a little bit redundant. We're probably not going to do that. But I don't see why we should limit them because of the life cycle of the groups and the way the organizations will work. It's the way life is. You have excitement in the beginning, and sometimes it will kind of fade out over time, and then something new comes along. This is something new, and it's exciting, and I think that it's worth supporting.
So I think the fear here is that we have so many groups, right? That everybody gets a group. My birthday's on a Tuesday this year group. It's a fear that we have so many groups that we then fracture the city. And so I like the idea of a group, but what I like better than these specialized groups are you. I think the need that's trying to be fulfilled through a group is a voice. They want a voice, and they want to be heard, and they want someone to listen to them. That's you and me. You are the group, I'm the listener. And so I think that's really fixing the problem. Not that everybody gets their own little special group. And so, it does cost money. It's not salary money, but it costs your tax dollar money to manage that group, to make sure that group is meeting, give them a place to meet. And someone's got to make, flyers for the group. I mean, there is a small financial impact to those sort of things. And so what we need to do is, I've mentioned before, months and months ago when I first started the campaign, districting the city, and I think it's a possible solution. It's not something that I'm completely married to, but it's a possible solution to fix the desire of the people of getting a voice, gaining some representation. And that's why there's a 5-member council, so that you have a group already. And if we district the city, you know that your representative is no more than a few miles away from you. Your kids probably go to school with their kids. You might go to church with them. You might play on the same soccer team. And so that's, to me, the better group. I don't disagree with the military group. I think they've got a lot of great intentions. But I think we can do better. I think we can involve more folks. And that's my goal, is to be that channel for you guys.
I think the first thing that's important to understand is what is the role of an advisory board. We've had boards a long time ago in our past, for these to go research that, and they reinstated many of the boards with Mayor Jackson, and I'm on the Parks and Rec board, and we have some of those boards meet maybe quarterly, some meet every month, like my board meets every month. We used to meet twice a month when we had a need to do so, and then reduced it when that need went away. So those things can change. I've seen a lot of people come and go on the Parks board. I'll be leaving at the end of this year, and it is a great opportunity for residents to get involved. But the point is to advise the council on issues in the city where they need that additional help, that additional resource of experts in our community who live here that can volunteer their time to research the issues and take the time that the council members just don't have available to them. That's the whole point of an advisory board. So when you go to set one up, the first question would be to ask the residents, do you think this is necessary? No one asked me. I'm on a board. I could have given some input. All of a sudden it was just happening. And that's the first thing that's important. Nobody in this community that I've talked to thinks military and veterans are unimportant. So it's not an issue of which board, of this particular board being a group that's unimportant or important. It's definitely important to every one of us. Many of us were out waving, when people come home, or putting up ribbons, which is now under this board. And so there's a lot of good things that are happening, that were occurring before the board was created. The purpose, though, is does the council need the additional
30 seconds.
People to come and advise them in this issue? And if the answer is yes, then the board can be created. And the question would also be, can they, as council members, attend their meetings? Because often they are appointed to those boards to attend the meetings so they can bring back to the rest of the council the information that has been gathered.
I like brain trusts. I like advisors. In fact, I wish we could have the best minds specialized in every interest that we're involved in to give their advice. I'm kind of analytical, so I like to process good, solid information. So I don't have a problem with the Military Advisory Board. Now, certainly not every group is going to have an advisory board, but I can't come out against it because I think that when we have specialists giving their input, then I think that that's a good thing. Now, so let me say this. So I would have voted for the advisory board. However, I would have made one stipulation, because in cases like this, there are always some uncertainties. When we do new things that we haven't done before, we don't know which way it's going to go. So what I would have done is voted for the Military Advisory Board with the stipulation that it has a sunset. So after, say, a year or 2 years, it automatically goes away just in case it went the wrong way. But it gives us an opportunity. If we have a good experience, now we can vote on knowledge instead of just voting on guessing. So rather than making it a permanent, I just would have given it a sunset, and we can make it permanent later if it's a good thing. Thank you.
We'll go ahead and begin our rebuttal period with Mr. Bradley.
So I've been to meetings where the advisory boards show up and advise the city council, and it is a good thing. I maybe left the wrong impression, but it is a good thing. The Senior Citizen Board has done great things for the senior citizens in this community. And to me, it's about limiting. I'm for a limited government, and the involvement of the residents is vital to limiting that government, in my opinion. The more involved we can be, the smaller the government can be. And so we want to make sure that those advisory boards are prudent and that they are doing their job. They're doing what they set out to do. And we have a lot of great boards now. I think I probably would have voted for the Military Advisory Board, not being involved with all of the information given. But I'd like to feed that information to you when it comes to me.
Just as a city might sometimes let us know of a community event or other things that are going on in our community, but that aren't necessarily sponsored by the city, I think it's important that groups are created here in Eagle Mountain that can benefit the residents who live here, whether it's a group of residents creating that group or somebody else, or it's an advisory board that the council feels they need additional input on. But I'm very in favor of advisory boards, like I think most of us here are. We think I personally think they provide good input for the council. I know for myself, if I become a council member, I'm going to need a
30
lot of help
seconds.
gathering all the information I need on certain issues, and these boards can help with that. But that is my criteria to make sure that they are necessary to provide us additional information. Otherwise, we can just create groups in the city on their own privately and reduce that influence of the government in our lives.
Ariane. I have no rebuttal. Thank you.
Well, I think that the groups will evolve on their own. They'll either succeed or they'll fail. We are there to simply offer them a stage to present to us when they are prepared with an idea. If they have a budgetary item, that's going to bring in another question. You know, if they have a prudent thing to bring forward, then that's something that we need to discuss. We need the information from the people, whether it's about
30
parks
seconds.
or about streets or about senior citizens, whether it's about youth groups or whether it's about the military. We need your help so that we can lead in the way that we need to protect and to serve and to lead in any way that we're supposed to. So any of this information that you guys can bring to us through a board or individually is welcomed.
We're ready to begin our final question for the council candidates. What is the greatest or most common criticism you have received regarding your candidacy during this campaign, and how would you respond to that criticism? We'll begin this question with Mr. Free.
The greatest criticism I've received, that's a great question. I've had a lot of good comments and criticism as well. I think the number one thing people have said is that it seems like I'm looking for power. I'm a power-hungry person wanting to only run for city council because it's a position of power. And that is as far from the truth as it could ever be. And I want to make sure that's clear tonight, that you guys understand why I'm running. This is my third time running for city council. I ran in 2007. And at that point, I was new to the city and had began serving with the Pony Express Days as a coach and doing other things as well, and wanted to be more involved and have my voice heard and the voice of my neighbors heard as well. And then in 2009, I ran again because I saw that I was appointed to the Parks and Rec Board in 2008 and saw that residents just weren't being listened to like they should be. And I wanted to be the guy who would listen to you and make sure your voice is heard like I was able to do on the Parks Board. And so I ran then, made it through the primaries, but didn't quite win the election. And then in 2011, I said, you know, I'm done with this. I'll just keep serving on the Parks Board. I'm getting a lot of good influence, talking to residents, making a good difference. And, you know, I'm not in this, I don't want to necessarily be a city council member. I just want to serve the residents of Eagle Mountain, and I'm doing that, so I'll continue to do that, and I have been doing that. And then in 2013, residents came to me and said, hey, we need somebody who can fix things in our city, do things better,
30
really listen
seconds.
to residents, and you need to run. And so I ran again for that specific purpose. My only intent is to truly make sure each one of you as residents is heard. My favorite thing to do in the world is to serve others, and that's why I'm running, because I want to serve you and make sure you are listened to. Thanks.
This is quite a question. In a campaign, you get a lot of criticism. In fact, you know what? I recommend that everyone run for office at some point, because it will humble you and it will make you a better person. Am I wrong? Yeah, it definitely gives you a lot of opportunity to inspect yourself and have others reveal your shortcomings. So many criticisms. I know this sounds like a joke, but actually one of my criticisms was my jokes. Some people did not like my jokes, so I'm sorry about that. Also, I've occasionally heard that some people were concerned that perhaps I didn't understand the issues the way I ought to. But, well, you know what? Anytime you have a criticism, you have to take it with, you know, that there is something to it. I'm afraid actually what was the actual problem is I was not very well presenting my understanding of the issues, because I do tend to see the issues a little differently. For example, we are living in uncertain times now, and we have to do things differently than we've done them in the past. Our economy
30
is not
seconds.
certain at all, and so we have to be very careful. We have to be even more careful how we spend our dollars than we have in the past. Thank you.
Well, I've really had a great election season this time, much better than the previous two. It's been a real love fest, and so criticisms have been very, very few to me. And the one that I've heard a number of times that is quite surprising to me is that I've been in for 6 years. It's time for someone new, and that 6 years is long enough, and that kind of baffles me a little bit, because if I'd said or done something to offend them or put them off, that's one thing, but 6 years, it's time for someone else. I firmly believe that experience is the key. Been there, done that. Want to do it again. I really enjoy being a member on this council. I love the people that I work with within the city, within the council, and the citizens have been very, very good to me. I would say that my greatest strength, or the thing that I hear the most from people, is that they are pleased with seeing me actually do things. It's one thing to be up here and to talk a lot, but I'm the guy that's out in the park throwing the sod. I go out on the Bobcat and drill the holes and plant the trees. And I go and sit down in people's homes and I talk to them about organizing and trying to do something about the rehab house coming into their neighborhood. I've done, and I want to continue doing. And I love Eagle Mountain. Thank you.
I'm going to start with a positive light. Someone accused me the other day of being the most approachable, and I can't think of a greater compliment of being approachable, because that's really what representative government's all about, right? Is that you feel comfortable talking to your representative about whatever it is. If it's complaining and being upset and maybe a little angry, I'm okay with that. And so I hope that that you're okay with voicing your opinion to me, because I would love to hear it. So I think the biggest criticism I've received, and I think I mentioned the approachability because even after a few minutes being on someone's doorstep, someone feels comfortable enough asking me pointed questions. And so that's been nice. It's nice to make that rapport with someone rather quickly. I get this a lot. Because of my job, I'm gone a lot. I'm often gone 4 days in a row, and that's no fun. And so I get the question of, do you have time? Do you really have the time because you're gone so much? The beautiful thing, the swing of the pendulum is I'm home more. On my website, I wrote a blog early on because I got this question over and over again. I answered the question and I put it down to the numbers. I have on average 13 to 15 days off a month, and it's far more than anyone else up here. And a lot of those times, those days off are during the week. And so not only am I available after 5 p.m., I'm available from sun up to sundown and past that. So I answer that question in just that way to someone that asks me if I have the time. I have the time, and not only do I have the time, I'm willing to spend the time. I'm happy to spend the time. It's a good time in my life where I can spend the time caring about the needs of people outside of my home, and it's great to be out there with you, and I look forward to it. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and start our rebuttal time with Mr. Westmoreland.
Yeah, I didn't mean to sound like it was all bad stuff. I had so much fun talking about my criticisms that I forgot the rest of it. No, I don't mind the criticisms. They make me a better person. And fortunately, though, no, I've had a lot of good input. And had a great experience in this campaign, getting out and getting to know more of my neighbors out in Eagle Mountain, getting to know their concerns and their desires. for this city. So I have enjoyed this campaign. I feel honored to be up here with these fine gentlemen. And it's been a real pleasure, just even to have gone this far. And I thank you for that experience, and thank you for putting up with me.
We all want to say the good, you know. When you're asked to speak about a fault or something, that's kind of interesting. But there's been so much good. There's been criticism through the years because I've been here for years. I've been doing this for years. I have the experience, and I've been able to come through problems, been able to help people understand when things go south, the reasoning behind that, and how to move forward with it. I find that
30 seconds.
Working on the city council with the people that we associate with, that it is very gratifying to see the improvements and see the roads and the infrastructure and the parks and all that stuff come together, and to have people meet you in the grocery store and say, you know, thank you for getting that park done. I just don't know a better feeling than someone that you don't even know coming up and thanking you for your efforts, and it's very gratifying.
Time.
I've heard on a few occasions that I'm just looking for change's sake, and I apologize. I hope that I never came across that way, but because change is good. That's why we have elections every 4 years, and we do need some change to spur growth. For fresh ideas, fresh faces, maybe fresh ideas at old problems. And so that's another criticism, and I don't want it to come off that way at all, because I think that the folks that have worked so hard have done a good job, and they have worked very hard. And so we are going to get one new face no matter what. Mr. Painter did not rerun. So change is good. And as long as it's the right kind of change, and I hope you would see me as the right kind of change. So see you November 5th.
I've heard it said by many residents that no one loves Eagle Mountain City more than Brian Free. That's quite a compliment, and I take that humbly. But I hope it can be seen, having ran 3 times and stayed involved before running and after running, and I'm still involved in Eagle Mountain City. That's a lot of tenacity. Most people would just drop out and never come back and even serve anywhere, because it's difficult to pick yourself back up and continue working for the good of your community, and that's what I've done. And as far as being available and being able to serve, I've probably got the best job in the world for that.
Seconds.
I work on as a commercial real estate appraiser. I set my own hours, so I can work from home. I can work from my office, only 30 minutes away. We have special sessions that sometimes called that we have to be available minimum of 3 hours. So if it came to a 3-hour time frame, I could be there in a heartbeat regardless of the day and be able to do the city's bidding at any time. And I hope that you can see that too.
All right, we'll begin our closing statements. We'll begin those with Mr. Oxenhurt.
Well, it's been great to have you all here. A lot of really familiar faces and a lot of new faces. I hope that there are some things that have been offered tonight that will help you make up your mind. One of the main things that I would like to share with you is I've said over and over tonight, is my experience. I've been here. I've been working hard for the city. I've had a great experience working with the many great people that are up here and affected positive change. And I still have that fire in my belly well, it's just a big belly, but I told him I'd say one joke, so there it is. I love what I do, and it's because I've been able to have success in it. If you fail at things, it's not nearly as fun. And the experience that I bring to the table is very, very important for the city moving forward. With all the construction and development issues, I'm the only one actively working in the construction industry on the council or running for the council. It's a great asset that I've been able to bring, and I hate this part of it because you have to say how awesome you are. And I'm confident that I'm a good person, that my intentions are for you, to serve you, to do the best for you. And we'll disagree. But I hope that you'll understand that I'm also working for these guys over here that may disagree with these guys over here. And trying to find balance and understand that and to work together
30
and to
seconds.
build that partnership that I talked about earlier is what I've strived to do. And I've had great success with that and met so many wonderful people and had so many good experiences moving forward, building parks, bringing the golf course into the community, over $1 million into the coffers of the city, directly related to working personally with the golf course people and the developers. I want to continue serving, and those are just a few reasons why I think Nate is great for Eagle Mountain.
Time. So, what you're here to do is to make up your mind as to which two of us you're going to vote for, and I hope that I can stand apart just a bit from these fine gentlemen. What you're electing is a communicator and a leader and someone who will put your interests first, and that's me. In my profession, I have a lot of trust put in me. When you buy an airline ticket, you don't question whether or not that pilot's been trained, or he's well rested, or that his mind is right. You put that trust when you purchase that ticket, and just as I honor that trust every day when I go to work, I'm going to honor your trust, and I'm going to honor the trust that you put into elected officials to communicate with you, to open dialogue, to feed you information so that you can be properly informed about the things that are happening in your city. And so I think as we do that, we gain involvement, and as we get more involved, we gain a better trust, a higher trust. And when that trust increases, then progress can happen. And we're not fighting amongst ourselves, and we're not worried about disgruntledness. Is that a word? And we want to move forward. And so that's what I think you're electing, and I think I represent that well. Someone that you can trust to talk with you and communicate with you and make good decisions. Spending your tax dollars is a really precious gift to do, and we need to do it wisely. And I don't take that lightly at all. And visit my website, adambradleyemcity.org, learn more about me. Or give me a call. My phone number's online and on that website, and I'd love to chat with you more, and I'll be out in your neighborhoods this week and this weekend. Thanks for coming out tonight.
It's time for you guys to make a decision, to cast your vote. Some of you may have already done so or have the opportunity to do it with early voting or again on November 5th. And I encourage you to vote. Make sure you vote for two people, because those are going to be those representatives for you. And you can then hold us accountable if you cast your vote. And what kind of a leader are you looking for? If I'm running for, or if I'm applying for a job, the first thing the hiring manager is going to do is look at my qualifications and see if I have the experience necessary to do what I am applying for. And if the answer is no, my resume goes into the trash can, and we eliminate those from our list of potential employees. Same thing should be true here as with your council candidates. You need to look at those who have the experience and the knowledge to be able to truly represent you as a resident of Eagle Mountain City and serve our community. If you look at my track record, I've been serving, caring, and being dedicated to the residents of Eagle Mountain City for a very long time, over 5.5 years. That's dedication, with no recognition, no pay, no nothing, just a desire to do what is best for Eagle Mountain City and to make sure our voices are heard. That has been my only intent, and that it continues to be. I also understand what is needed here in Eagle Mountain through my career as a commercial real estate appraiser. I work with developers and others, and I understand what is needed to have the infrastructure in place now and in the future to take care of our needs long term. It is important that we keep taxes low for our residents, and that we keep our utility bills low, and that we do everything we can to have minimal government and reduce the excess spending. So please vote for Brian Free. My number is 801-915-9189. Call me. I'll actually answer. And you can go to my website, voteforbrianfree.com. Get your questions answered. Listen to the residents on my page telling why you should vote for me, and make the right decision November 5th. Thank you.
When my wife and I moved here 5 years ago, we chose Eagle Mountain because it was affordable and a safe place to raise our children. I mentioned earlier that we are living in uncertain times. We're seeing a recession that gets deeper. Through sticking to, adhering to sound conservative principles, we can get through a recession period. In fact, we could possibly even use it to our benefit, because by becoming an example of a good place to live, a good solid place to do business, as other cities and states around the country file bankruptcy and as they raise their taxes, those leaders, those industry leaders and those with high incomes, those businesses could find a safe haven here. So we could use it to our advantage. That's one of the things that's unique about my skill set is I have 30 years of experience in helping businesses grow, and 20 years of experience in fighting for states' rights and individual rights to push back federal encroachment. You know, there was a young man a few years ago that was a watchmaker or a watch repairman. He worked for Thomas Edison.
30 seconds.
He learned from Thomas Edison that to change things, you don't always have to invent something brand new. All you have to do is figure out a way to make it a little bit better. That young man was Henry Ford. He didn't invent the automobile, but he changed the way automobiles were made. And in doing so, he ended up changing the world.
Time.
Thank you.
We'd like to thank our candidates. Let's give them a round of applause. Give us a couple minutes, we'll get changed out for our mayor debate, and we'll start in about 2 minutes. We're going to begin our mayor debate now. It'll be the same format as the other debate, with one exception. We will have 5 questions this time instead of 4. I believe we have plenty of time to do that. And so we'll go ahead and get started right away with our introductions, and we'll begin with Mr. Pangra.
Guys, thanks again for coming out. My name is Christopher Pangra, and familiar spot to be sitting here. We were here maybe a month ago or so, and I really enjoy the process. Thank you, ladies in the PTA, for putting the event on. And just to let you know a little bit about me, I've lived in Eagle Mountain for about 6 years, and it's a place that I fell in love with when we were looking for a new home. I was in the military with my wife was with me. We moved around a lot, and when we got out, it was time to put down roots. We wanted to stay somewhere. And when we found Eagle Mountain, we knew that we had found that place. That sunset out there tonight, I don't know if you probably didn't see it if you guys came in a little bit later, but that's one of the things that makes it worth living out here. We love it here. What brought me to this point is really that I saw some things that I thought that we could be doing better. And I took some time to make an honest assessment of where I thought we were and where I think that we should be. And that's what brought me to this point. Right now, I work for an investment firm where I handle a lot of transactions every day. I supervise roughly 150 representatives and basically just make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing and making sure that that they're following compliance and fun stuff like that. Anyway, I appreciate you guys coming out here, and really just thanks for being here.
Thank you all for being here. I was just talking to somebody who said that they came from another debate, and it was barely filled, and the population is twice the size of ours. It's really impressive that we have so many people that are involved, and I'm so glad to live in a community that is like that. And thank you all for doing the job of hosting and taking care of this for us. My name is Heather Jackson, and I am running for mayor. I've lived in Eagle Mountain for 15 years now, and I'm married to my wonderful husband, Alan Jackson. We have 4 beautiful boys, and I really enjoy just spending time with them, going to football, basketball, and baseball games. I love those because I get to sit there and I get to talk to all of you and find out what's going on in your lives and what are the things that are concerning you about our city. During my time, though, as being mayor, I've done several things. We've instituted our welcome home parades for our soldiers when they return, and airmen, and every other type of military we have. I've also made sure that we have a wheelchair accessible park with a wheelchair swing for those exceptional kids that we need to take care of. I've been participating in our annual scholarship pageant for Miss Eagle Mountain for years, and I enjoy that opportunity. More importantly, I've spent time getting this city back on stable footing. We had 9 mayors in 10 years, and that was really a difficult thing to go through. Under my time as mayor,
30
I have
seconds.
decreased our budget and done many, many things to help our community. Experience matters in our leadership, and my vision and your vision of the future depends on a clarity of vision, the ability to create meaningful coalitions, which I have been able to do over the last 6 years, and I will continue to do that for the next 4 if you should elect me. Thank you.
All right, let's begin with question number 1. Currently, our city's form of government establishes the mayor as a non-voting entity unless a tie-breaking vote is needed. What are your feelings with regards to this policy? How will you influence decisions made in the city without the ability to vote on proposed policies and ordinances? We'll begin with Mayor Jackson. Sure.
I'm really quite familiar with this form of government. It's actually, sometimes it can be very tricky to influence, and sometimes it's very simple, but that's the beauty of having the form of government that we have. I get to set the agenda for every city council meeting. Now, any council members that want to have an item put on the agenda, they can just ask, or if they don't think I'm going to put it on there, they have the ability to request it with 2 members of the city council. So anything that is wanted to be on the agenda gets there. That's the way I've been operating over the last 6 years. As far as influencing the city council, I think it's really the job of the residents to influence the city council and to encourage them to vote for the things that they feel are the right things and the most appropriate things. I do spend time talking with them and encouraging them on things that I think are appropriate, and more importantly, in communicating with them the information that they need to make those decisions. I have had opportunity where I've had to, of course, vote, and I take that as a very important part of the process, and I make sure that I weigh out all of the options, both good and bad, and make a decision that I feel is right and appropriate. I know that you have instilled a trust in me by electing me, and that I will do
30
everything
seconds.
that I can to make sure that the vote that is made is the vote that is right and appropriate for our community. And so I just look for that opportunity again.
Well, as Mayor Jackson stated, certainly the mayor does have the opportunity to vote in the instance of a tie. And of course, they do have mayor does have quite a bit of influence over the agenda because they set it. And so one other way that we have influence when we set the agenda, anything that's on the agenda, the staff report is going to be written by staff that's presiding over that particular issue. If it's something related to parks, then the supervisor or department head over Parks and Recreation would certainly put their information in how they recommend voting on that particular issue. And so in a strong mayor system such as we have, there's actually quite a bit of influence that the mayor has. And it's important that is bridled, that we have checks and balances and people to hold the mayor accountable and make sure that we're paying attention to what's going on with not only what's put on the agenda, but how how we're presenting that from the staff. And there's quite a bit of influence in that regard. As far as voting is concerned, I kind of have mixed feelings about the strong mayor system for this reason. And that's because we're not on the record all the time. We're not on the record if we don't vote. And so we don't know how that influence is being pushed behind. And so, I can't take credit for the idea. Someone else had brought it up, but maybe the mayor should articulate what their vote would be on any particular issue. Maybe it doesn't need to be during the meeting, but maybe after the fact, that's something that could be added as a note with the amendments for the public consumption.
Todd? Thank you. We'll go ahead and begin our rebuttal.
Sure. I just want to point out that we don't have a strong mayor form of government in Eagle Mountain. We actually have the traditional form of government, also termed as a weak mayor form of government. What we do have is a full-time mayor, which is different than most cities with a traditional form of government. But a strong mayor form of government would be that like Provo City has, where they actually have the executive branch, and he is not presiding in the council meeting. So I think it's important, first off, that we know for sure what type of government we are in and then how to operate it appropriately.
I have no rebuttal. Thank you.
We will move on to question number 2. This past summer, there were several cities that had to ration or restrict water usage in order to deal with shortages. In addition, our own city experienced issues with wells breaking down, which led to extreme pressure and flow problems in some areas of the city. What should the city do in terms of policy and infrastructure to prevent situations where supply and/or equipment failure may leave residents without proper utility services? I believe that is Mr. Pengra.
That's a great question, and one thing that certainly can't happen, a city can't exist without water. That's pretty obvious, I think, to most of us, which there's 2 things I think that would be a good thing to focus on. The first is, to the extent possible, we want to keep our equipment the same with the wells as far as pumps and things, so that we can repair and remanufacture those items and do a lot of that work in-house if possible. And that way we've always got components that we can switch out and keep the pumps running and do that quickly without a lot of downtime. Because the more downtime we have, the harder it is on the residents, the more problems we have with pressure drops and pressure surges and things of that nature. One other issue would certainly be the irrigation system we have. I think we've all gone down the street and see the water running down the street. It's well known that our irrigation system is not very efficient. I think we need to be a little more intentional with the management of our funds so that we can start investing in that sooner rather than later. And I know that there are plans on the table to start doing that, but I think we needed to start doing that a while ago. And one additional thing, I guess, would be to start incorporating a little more xeriscape into the medians and the park spaces, so that we can be more efficient even in using drip irrigation and natural landscape that's more water-wise, that we can conserve more water that way.
I'm really glad that we didn't have to ration the water this year like we had to do in the past. The first year that I was on the, it was the second year I was on the city council. I remember I was on vacation and I got a phone call from the mayor, and he said, we're restricting the water usage, we're putting up the electronic billboards, and just trying to let everybody know. And I appreciated him communicating with me personally, but then the ability to get that information out. Yes, we had wells go down this year. We have 5 wells in our city, and we had 3 go down this year. Most people didn't realize that we actually had 3 go down because, well, one, we had it planned to have them go down, not all of them, but because we're doing regularly scheduled maintenance on them. And when you do have a well I would love to be able to hire people in-house that could take care of those things, but the technology that's involved in there, it is not something that we want to take on and pay for. That is definitely something we want to contract out as needed. And so with that, I will hope that we continue to go that route. Now, more importantly, we have to have ways of making sure that our water supply is a redundant water supply. The wells that we currently have are at capacity for the water rights that can be put into them. And we do need to have water for our future. The City Council has purchased water rights from the Central Utah Water Conservancy District.
30 seconds.
Now we need to get that water to our city, and so we have the plan to put in a pipeline, and we'll continue moving forward with that, but that also gives us a redundancy when one of those wells goes down.
We'll begin our rebuttal.
When I'm talking about taking care of maintenance in-house, a pump is a pump is a pump. And there may be electronic components to that pump. There's a lot of electronics that will regulate the flow and the pressure and things like that. Not all of it has to be farmed out to somebody who's a specialist. A lot of that can be done in-house. And as far as the Central Utah Water Conservancy and the water that we've purchased, I think that we've done a good job with that in making sure that we have met our needs for future water usage, because we are going to grow. We have to continue developing those resources and make sure that as we move forward, we have the ability to meet the demands of the public. But again, going back to the conservancy, I think the conservation rather, I think we can continue making efforts in that regard to stretch our resources.
Thank you. Just to finish what I was saying about the pipeline, so we did just bond for a pipeline, and we were able to get our funding at 1.72%, which is incredible, and so I just thought I should mention that. As far as conserving the water, I've been working on trying to figure out better ways to deal with watering and the things through the ranches area specifically. You'll notice in the city center we do have xeriscaping because we feel like that's a little bit more water-wise and appropriate. But the ranches existed long before I was ever on the city council or as our mayor.
30 seconds.
And so we're continuing to look at options. Originally it was like 750,000. Now we're down to 250, and hopefully we can figure out a way to put that in our budget this next year.
Thank you. We'll move to question number 3. In order to rotate answering first on a question, we'll begin with Mayor Jackson. The City Council recently established a Military and Veterans Advisory Board. While this is a laudable notion, do you feel it is necessary for groups of citizens to have formally established advisory board in order to share their thoughts and concerns with the city? Should every demographic be represented with an advisory board? At what point should one interest group get a more formal type of representation than the others?
Thank you for that question. I did propose the Military and Veterans Advisory Board to the City Council. I was very glad to have an opportunity to do that. We have several things that we do in our community. We're located so close to Camp Williams, and we have so many military families out here that I felt like that was a really important thing to do, to represent that area of our community and to help deal with some of the concerns that have arisen through that. As far as when is it appropriate to stop, in my opinion, we want all the input we could possibly have. So if it doesn't cost anything to have people have the opportunity to get together, why not give them an opportunity and give them a forum and a place where they can do that on a regular basis? I really don't see a need to put a limit, a specific amount of boards that we could possibly have. But I'm not just going to form a board just because either. I think there does have to be some interest and some involvement that shows that there is a need for a specific area. We've had things like arts councils in the past, and those haven't worked for us, to be honest. And maybe someday they will. I really hope they will, because I think it's an area of our community that we lack. We've been working on parks and recreation and things, but we don't have
30
anything for the
seconds.
arts. So I would really like to see perhaps something like that, but I'm not going to propose that until I know we have a group that's ready and willing to stand up and seek after the things that they need to make our community great.
I'm a veteran of the United States Air Force, and you know, there's always the worry within government that I don't want to be too bureaucratic. We don't want to form too many committees and boards and things that just consume too much time. However, I think that obviously we live in a community where there's a lot of military, and I actually recommended this a couple of months ago when this campaign started, based on conversations I was having with other military members within the community. When I was in the Air Force, when I lived on the Air Force base, there was community boards and committees that would basically take care of the other airmen and be an advocate for the needs that were on that particular Air Force base. And so I like the idea for that reason, because we are a community where we've got a lot of military members, mostly National Guard, and I think that it's important that we do take care of ourselves with the Yellow Ribbon Committee, where we take care of the processions and the welcome home ceremonies and things like that. I think it's great that we're turning that over to them and letting them be their own advocates and take care of themselves. And I think that we should continue that.
Thank you. We'll begin our rebuttal.
I don't really have anything to rebut. Thank you.
Sorry to be boring, I don't either.
I don't think anybody minds. All right, we'll go ahead and begin with question number 4 then. When considering proposed improvements in the city, what do you feel should be the criteria for deciding on which improvements to make? How do you weigh your decision when it comes to issues such as cost, number of residents that benefit, utility and road improvements, parks and recreation? We'll begin with Mr. Pengra.
Thank you. You know, anytime we're going to be spending taxpayer money, it's pretty important that we're making careful and intentional decisions. We have to. I mean, that's what you guys are electing us for. That's what we receive pay for, and we should be doing that to the best of our ability. So when we take a look at a particular improvement, certainly we want to take a look at the cost versus the benefit and see that we are giving a benefit to the largest amount of people. There are other considerations though, and I think that sometimes maybe there's something that maybe doesn't give everybody a huge benefit, but if we don't do it now, it's going to cost us a whole lot more money later if it's necessary. And there's a danger if we don't give those things consideration. So we have to be thoughtful and intentional in that regard. The other thing, in any case, you know, there's another thing too. We have to make sure that we're continuing to maintain our critical infrastructure like our roads, and that has to be the first priority, because if we don't have roads that we can continue to drive on, that's going to bring everything to a standstill. That won't be pretty. But certainly we always have to consider things that residents enjoy as well, like parks.
Thank you. I think this was a great question. I'm glad that you asked it again. I enjoyed listening to the council candidates answer this question. It's the most difficult thing I think that we have to do on an annual basis is putting together the budget and prioritizing what things are the most important things and which things have to maybe take the back seat for a year or possibly 2. It just depends on, you know, the dollar figure, the amount that we're talking about. But more importantly, Councilmember Oxenhurt spoke correctly when he said, we got to figure out, first off, where's that source coming from? If it's a road project, it really should come from our BNC road funds. And so we have to figure out, do we have enough in that pot of money first? And then we look at, do we have our impact fee money? Do we look at, so first of all, I think we've got to figure out how much money we do have, where it comes from, and is it restricted and can only be spent on certain things. So this year, for example, when we put together
30
our
seconds.
budget, we knew that we had to spend about $170,000 on Parks and Rec. And so we've put that money in to be allocated in the Mid-Valley Park. It can't be spent anywhere else because it's impact fee money specific to parks. So we couldn't have done a road project with that money if we had wanted to.
Thank you. We'll begin our rebuttal.
So I know budgets are so very exciting for everybody. To get into the nitty-gritty, just very quickly and high-level overview, because it's so important that we determine how we're spending every dollar, I would like to see a complete change to the way we're running our budget. And I already talked to the state budget office. They did say that it is possible to change the way that we do it, as long as we're consistent. And that's going to a zero-based budget model, meaning you determine the bare minimum
30 seconds.
to keep the department running, and we do that across the city. We find the bare minimum, and then that's your starting point. You build from there. That way, you're getting an accurate picture for every department and every job that the city is doing, and we're making sure that we're being, again, intentional, and we're exercising good stewardship over the funds. The use it or lose it method, the modified accrual that we use now, it's inefficient, and I think we can do better there.
So when we do the budget currently, every single different department head has to come in and actually defend their budget. And we talk about, do you need all of the personnel that you have? Do you need every vehicle that you have? How many miles are you driving on that particular vehicle? Are there other ways that we can cut the expenses? We don't just throw in money just to throw in money ever and spend hours upon hours through that process.
30
I think
seconds.
obviously we can always look at ways to cut more. Everybody can look at ways to cut more. But I think that we need to just continue working through the process. We have 6 budget awards and 3 audit awards from the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States. We must be doing something right to have those.
All right, thank you. We're ready for our final question of the evening. We've had 3 debates and countless events in the city over the course of this campaign. As you look back at the campaign and consider the message you are trying to send out to residents, what is one question you would have jumped at the chance to answer publicly, but have not been given the opportunity? Please state the question and then give your answer. We'll begin with Mayor Jackson.
Would you repeat it again, please?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
We've had 3 debates and countless events in the city over the course of this campaign. As you look back at the campaign and consider the message you are trying to send out to residents, what is one question you would have jumped at the chance to answer publicly, but have not been given the opportunity? Please state the question and then give your answer.
This is a really interesting question. I like it. What is one question that I would have enjoyed answering? I think the question that actually I started getting asked the last several days when I was knocking doors is, what are the issues we're not talking about? What are the things that are critically important to the city that nobody's talking about? Obviously, so that's my question. What are the things we're not talking about? Now, obviously, we're talking about things like economic development. It gets talked about all the time, and we need it desperately. But when we look down the road towards our future, there are things that we don't talk about. Things like our power. Where are we going to get power from after 2015? You know what? I think that's a critically important thing that we've got to focus on and figure out. We have to determine, are we going to own resources in order to have power, or are we going to extend a contract with our municipal power supplier, whether it be UMPA or UAMPS? I think those are really critically important questions that need to be asked. We also have contracts for our gas supply. Now, often I get asked, what about selling the utilities? Which, you know what, if the right company
30
comes in with a
seconds.
right offer, let's do it. But so far, we haven't seen that. So in the meantime, we better know exactly what we're going to do for our future, because I think it's really important that we can turn on the lights and continue having more water come into our homes.
For me, I think the one thing that well, this is a free floor. It's kind of nice to be able to ask myself my own question and answer it. The one thing that I think has really gotten twisted in this election cycle is, how do I feel about developers? I think it's been twisted that I hate developers, I hate development, and I believe that, you know, you can't trust any of them as far as you can throw them. But the fact of the matter is, if developers weren't here, the city wouldn't be here. Developers build our homes, they build our businesses. When they come in, we have to have them. They're critical. So I have no problem at all with developers or with working with developers, as long as we can communicate with them. But there's another important thing, and that's that the communication that we've had from the government to the residents, we've had a problem with trust. And that means there has to be a clear line of separation between us and the developers. And that means, as a candidate, we can't, well, I'll speak for myself here. I can't take money from developers to fund my campaign, not because that makes me, puts me in a position where I'm not going to act with integrity, but because it puts me in a position where you don't know if I'm acting with integrity. And so I love developers. We have to have them. It's critical. But there has to be a clear line of separation. And that's the one thing that I would ask and did.
Rebuttal.
Thank you. I think that's a great question too. As far as developers go, developers are our businesses in the city of Eagle Mountain. But that's the part we have to remember, because for the longest time we've had little to no business, and the business we have had is the business of building the community, building the homes, and bringing people here. And so when you do look at where you're going to get campaign funds from in any community, you go to
30
your
seconds.
businesses. And so I'm glad to say that I'm supported by most of our developers, because I think it shows the respect that they do have for me. They know that I will hold them accountable, and I have done it sitting right here in the middle of a city council meeting and staring them right in the eye, and I will continue to do that. Thank you.
I don't think I have anything to rebut.
Very well. Let's begin our closing arguments, not arguments, our closing remarks. We're not arguing anymore.
We've had no arguments going on, so let's not start now. All right. Again, thank you so much for coming out. It is such a pleasure and a great opportunity to get to know the citizens of our community, but it's so inspiring to see so many of you in this room, and I really wish we saw you on a regular basis at our city council meetings, to be honest. But I'm glad that you're involved now. I've appreciated getting to know Chris throughout the campaign and seeing what he brings to the table. And I would like to just talk about the things that I bring to the table. During my time as our mayor, I have cut our budget from $55 million to $29 million. Obviously, I have great help from the council that we have, and I appreciate that. But we've also decreased our staff. We received the award from the governor just last week for being a business-friendly community, one of several in the state, but not many in the state. We have won 6 budget awards, 3 audit awards. one of the things that I bring to the table is the ability to build coalitions, to get things done. It's why I've been chosen by the mayors of Utah County 2 years in a row to be the chair of the Mountain Land Association of Governments Transportation Committee. Transportation is critically important to the city of Eagle Mountain, and I take that very seriously. I've also been endorsed by a
30
number of
seconds.
mayors up and down the entire Utah County area, north and south, and all 3 of our county commissioners, because they know that the things that I do for Eagle Mountain are valuable not only to Eagle Mountain, but they're valuable to the entire area and region. And they know that we will be bringing economic development that will help the whole region to succeed. Thank you. I would love to have your vote on November 5th. Please remember to go to the polls, and remember it's because experience matters.
From day one, I've taken this very seriously. Obviously, I'm asking for you guys to put an awful lot of trust in me. And I want you to know that the thing that's most important to me is that we're listening, that we're engaging and having a dialogue with the people who live here. Because like me, having been a citizen first and a candidate second, I know what it's like to be frustrated when you don't feel like you're getting a chance to voice your grievances and still be listened to on the other side. There's a lot of things that I think that we need to do moving forward. From holding developers accountable to the agreements we've made with them, to being open and honest and laying it all out on the table, even when it's not necessarily palatable. I think that we need to restore the trust that we have in this city. And I'm asking for you to put your trust in me. And if you're not ready to do that yet, that's fine. My information is all on my website. It's www.pengraformayor.com. I'm happy to take a phone call for you, or answer your email, or send a carrier pigeon. It doesn't matter to me. I just want to communicate with you, and that's what's important. I appreciate you guys coming out tonight, and I look forward to the continued dialogue. Thanks.
You both got to go, right? Okay, I want to close it before we're done. I want to thank our candidates. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much for coming. We're going to give our candidates a minute to get out to the hallway. Please take an opportunity to visit with them on your way out if you would like to. And thank you for being here and participating.